Um, Welcome, everyone. It's good to see us all here at this local webinar. It's entitled Nutrition for a Better You. And that's what we're all about, the Mona Library Health and Wellness team. We have a cardio group along with a committee, and I'm seeing all of us in our numbers here. We have our chair, Mr. Tamar Heron. He is a good trainer, both in temporal theory and practical, right? And we have Mrs. Worrell Johnson, and we have Miss Nicole Johnston, right, as committee. And for a part of our cardio group, we have Miss Lindsay, Yolanda Lindsay, and we also have Miss Burgley Lawson. Now I'm going to get right into our prayer because it is customary for us to consult our Creator God and invite Him in the affairs of man. We want a productive meeting, and that is what we want Him to assist us with as we learn, as our hearts be open as to what we're going to discuss, unlearn, and have reinforced. So Mrs. Burgley Lawson, at this time, I would invite you to open in prayer for us. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Let's pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks. We thank you because you are our divine Savior. We thank you, Lord, today for life. We thank you that we are in our right mind. So we come to give you thanks. God, we ask you to give us a heart that is pure and spotless like yours. Fill us, Lord, with your love and help us to see us, Lord. See us as we see you, Jesus, this morning. Father, we pray that you will cause this meeting to be a productive one. We pray, Lord, that we will be receptive, and at the end, we can say thank you. Lord, we pray, Lord, that you will just cover the presenter, Lord, today as she talks to us. Help us, oh God, to realize that in all that we do, we need to give you thanks. I pray that you'll just take full charge and full control of this meeting. Gracious God, we thank you for everything. We pray for clarity, and we pray, God, that you will just be with us throughout this meeting for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Now I'll go right ahead with the greetings and the introduction of our first speaker. I'm greeting you also in the absence of our librarian, our campus librarian, Dr. Paulette Carr, who we are accustomed to having give our greetings and her remarks, her opening remarks.
All right, so it seems like your connectivity is a bit poor, so we're not hearing you for a while.
Oh, okay. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'll begin now. All right. Mrs. Dorothy Graham-Charles, owner and
All right, Mrs. Graham-Charles, I'm going to ask you to pardon us as it seems like Ruth is having some technical issues at this moment. So what I'm going to ask of you is to please, if you could just introduce yourself to our audience. And just to remind persons that this meeting is being recorded and it will be edited and then resubmitted to our library's YouTube channel. So Mrs. Graham-Charles, please go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Thank you, Mr. Heron. Thank you very much, Miss Rooms, and acknowledgement to Dr. Paulette Carr, who is not here today, but please convey my greetings to her and gratitude for accepting for me to present today, and to the LACO crew. Thank you so much to Japinad for inviting me to present, and I acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Asha Gay Thompson, an executive member of Japinad. So it's a pleasure for me to be here. I would not want to, sound my own horn, so you're at liberty to speak about me after my presentation. But greetings from the sunny and beautiful island of Antigua and Barbuda. I am of Jamaican parentage. My father is born Jamaican, and of course, it's a delight to share with you today. So with no much further ado, I'll ask kindly to share my slide, if you'd permit me to, so that we can get right into the presentation. Now, I do have limited time today, and I know in terms of blood type, everybody wants to hear the juicy stuff, but because of the limited time, I will just introduce concepts to you, and then maybe at some other time we can discuss the more detailed aspects of nutrition and blood type. So that's my presentation today. Now, some of you may know that this year, 2020-21, is the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables. So just keep that in mind as we proceed with our presentation. And just a quick definition of what fruits and vegetables are. If you visit the International Year of Fruit and Vegetable website, you'll see a list of what fruits and vegetables are, a definition of those, so that you can keep in mind when we have our conversation this afternoon, these operational definitions. Now, when we talk about the blood type diet, of course, when I was asked to speak on the topic, my question was, what was the rationale for requesting this specific topic? Now, there's nothing wrong with talking about it, but it's nice to have a background. So I was given a background, as well as we would probably want to know what's the hypothesis, because there are some people who think that we need to eat according to our blood type. So maybe by the end of the presentation, you'll be able to have more insight as to the blood type diet and whether it is right for you or not so right for you, if it's right for somebody else. So let's dive right in. So the blood type diet is a reference point to understanding the body's reaction to the following. So firstly, it infers the characteristics about a person's body chemistry. It also infers a natural reaction to stress and other similar triggers, and the different types of illnesses and our response to various types of foods. So is the blood type approach for everyone? Let's dive right in and we'll get some answers as we go along. Now, there's a rationale for adopting the blood type approach. Firstly, if persons are experiencing inflammation, thyroid disorders, suppressed immunity, weight disorders, cancer, lupus, other blood or autoimmune disorders, effective exercise regimen. So persons wanting to know, okay, I've been going to the gym for years. I think I've been sticking with my diet. I'm still not losing weight. Or I'm losing the weight, but then, I'm losing muscle as well. Also, persons who may have suppressed mood, wants to boost their mood, the blood type approach may be adapted to answer some of these questions or some of these concerns. Now, the benefits of adopting the blood type approach is better nutrient absorption, and I'm aware that there are various cross-sections of faculty and campus here this afternoon. So I'm pitching this conversation to cater to the needs of all the persons here represented in the audience. So better nutrient absorption, reduced susceptibility to certain illnesses and medical conditions, increased benefit from exercise. So what it is purporting is that some persons may benefit more from exercises such as yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi. Some persons may need to do more rigorous exercise or even long exercises such as cycling, those endurance exercises. So it varies on the individual's blood type. And another benefit is that it can be followed by people of all ages. So here are some quick examples. I won't go into the detail, but you can see here on the slide the 4 different blood types and what they are called, and then the foods that will align with that particular blood type. Also, and there's another slide here speaking about the foods that would help persons with allergic reactions to certain stimuli, foods that will help to that person with that particular blood type to fight those allergic reactions or sensitivities. Now, when we talk about the blood type diet, we also need to take into consideration other aspects of proving or disproving whether individuals would respond more favorably to certain foods, certain exercises, and of course, keep in mind that with the blood type diet, of course, there's not a lot of evidence out there in the scientific field. However, clinically, persons may be able to pick up sensitivities, allergies, anomalies based on using the blood type approach. So usually what I would recommend the patient to do is to get an allergy test done. There's also a food sensitivity test. So the allergy test is where they would prick the skin with a serum with the allergenic or the allergen, whether it's mango blossom or it is wheat or soy or corn. And the person doing the test will test to see whether that person has an allergic reaction to that stimuli. So the serum that would have been, the skin would have been pricked with that allergen. Then there's a food sensitivity test where blood is drawn from the vein and that is sent off to be tested. Many times they can be tested or maybe about 1,000 different allergens, not just food, but also chemicals. So for example, monosodium glutamate and other specific allergens that persons may suspect that they are sensitive or allergic to. And then we can take the approach of documented intolerances, such as a very common one is lactose intolerance. So if that person realizes that they're getting running belly, or they're having bloatedness or even itching after consuming dairy foods, we are talking about that in terms of intolerances. And then documented allergic reactions. So some persons cannot eat certain foods because it may end them up in the hospital, breaking out in hives, swollen tongue, swollen eyes, teary eyes, those sorts of allergic reactions that persons may have. And then over time, these allergic reactions may increase in intensity. So the person may just have a mild reaction and then the severity would increase over time. And then other documented health issues such as infections, recurrent sinus infections, tonsil infections, inflammation such as just swelling and pain in the knee, gout, arthritis, even thyroid issues. And then persons may also choose to do a trial and error approach with foods and exercise. So they realize, when I eat this food, I don't feel so right. For example, wheat seems to be a very common culprit. When persons eat wheat, they find that they're inflamed, they're bloated, they're not feeling too good. Sometimes persons get headache from certain foods. When they don't eat those foods, they feel better. And then there are others that may try certain exercises. So persons may find that they can't do long distance runs or rides, they may do a yoga and they feel fine. They do Pilates, they're feeling really good. And then you find those who may need to get on the basketball court. They may need to ride 10 miles, 50 miles, knock themselves out, go to sleep, and they feel much better about themselves. Some persons may need more vigorous exercises. So when we're talking about the blood type diet, in terms of testing its utility, these are some of the approaches that we can take. So a caveat of the blood type diet is that some persons may have pre-existent health diseases or issues independent of the blood type. So let's use the O blood type, for example. That's a very common blood type, the most common blood type. Wheat and dairy seems to be the food that does not work well for that blood type. And then there are persons who may end up having recurrent infections so they have a pretty good immune system according to what the blood type diet purports. However, these persons, if they consume the foods that are prohibited for the diet, such as wheat and dairy, they find that they have recurrent sinus issues, recurrent colds, recurrent tonsillitis, inflammation, that sort of thing. And when they don't eat those foods, they find that they tend to do very well. However, if they have pre-existent health issues that are independent of the blood type, so for example, that person may have thyroid issues, they may have maybe some sort of eye health issue, then chances are it could be independent of the blood type itself, especially if there's a family history and there are different blood types within that family. Mother and father, mother and child may have different blood type, and that can happen sometimes. Now, the blood type approach is an exception and not the rule, in the sense that everybody does not necessarily have to follow the blood type diet. So we're not saying that everybody has to. What we're saying is that if that person has inflammation, thyroid issues, they have a tendency to react to certain foods, whether by sensitivity or by allergy, and they can't figure out why, then the blood type approach is typically recommended or is recommended. Now, what happens with the blood type diet is that it limits certain nutrients. And the blood type diet is recommended to be used when experiencing adverse health and all attempts have failed. So I've mentioned that before. All blood types may not experience the same health issues, and I did mention that as well. However, if experiencing specific health issues, cross-check whether these are blacklisted in the blood type approach. So that's talking about the blood type diet. And again, as I mentioned, time is limited, so I'm forging forward, and then at the end, we can always dig deeper into areas where you would need more clarity. So the blood type diet is one approach. And keep in mind that a diet is not just about losing weight. A diet is what we eat every day. So you ate bread and egg this morning, and you typically eat a breakfast in the morning, that's your diet, right? So whatever you eat is your diet. So the blood type diet is one approach, the alkaline diet is another approach, and the FODMAP diet is another approach. So there are various different types of diets. But what you'll find is that the alkaline diet and the FODMAP diet, they are closely aligned with the blood type diet, because what happens is that when we look at the alkaline diet, and I know this infographic here is not very clear, but the blood type diet actually pushes more for the consumption of clean foods, healthy eating. So fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and beans. Of course, they are divided depending on the type of blood that you have. The FODMAP diet speaks to persons with irritability, IBS. So there's irritability in the stomach, in the bowel system. And then if they eat certain foods, they find that, they're more gassy, they're more irritable in the stomach. If they avoid these foods, they find that they do much better. So there's a close alignment with the blood type and the FODMAP diet. Other considerations are eating from your jurisdictions and the organic versus native seeds versus the genetically modified seeds. So, for example, it's really nice to speak with older folks sometimes. So your grandparents, people from the village, in the countryside, talk to them sometimes. And, you get a little bit of information. Even if you don't think it's scientific, it's great to listen to them. A matter of fact, a lot of the information that our grandparents would have told us years ago and was brushed aside, you're finding that they're popping back up in science now as being scientific. Of course, our grandparents didn't know the science behind them. So, for example, coconut. Coconut was flagged as something bad. So the dried coconut milk, coconut oil. And now everybody's riding the coconut bandwagon, and there are other foods, other herbal remedies, other herbal applications that would be used, even using mud these are now scientifically proven to be on the right path. So our grandparents knew what they were doing. It's just that the science, we did not know the science. We didn't have the education we have now to prove or disprove what they were saying. So I'm saying all of this to say that an old friend of mine once told me that, if you really look at our race, we really should eat from the jurisdiction from which we came. So if you find for a lot of us of African descent, there tends to be a high level of wheat sensitivity. So you hear about gluten-free. Now, eating wheat is not a bad thing. What it is saying is that, we come from the jurisdiction where we eat more provisions. So the potatoes, the yam, the dashi, and so forth. We didn't eat as many grain foods as we're eating now. But with globalization and urbanization, a lot more persons of the African descent are eating whole grain foods to include wheat. And they're finding that they are responding negatively to it. It doesn't mean that all persons of African descent should not eat foods that are outside of their jurisdiction. What it means that if you're experiencing, sensitivities, adverse effects, then you can look closely into your diet using the jurisdictional approach and see whether some of these foods are not native to your race, if that makes sense. However, keep in mind that, a lot of biracial children are being born now, and all the DNA sampling and testing are part of, I suppose, that will evolve into a new way of research because of person's response to certain foods, even the development of diseases based on intermarriage of races. Then keep in mind also the organic versus the native seeds, the heirloom seeds. So organic doesn't necessarily mean genetically that they are free of genetically modified seeds. So you can have genetically modified seeds that are grown organically. What we need to talk about is native seeds. So seeds that are native, they are heirloom, they are the original seeds. They are not genetically modified, and they are grown in an area. So keep in mind that native seeds can be grown and they're not grown organically. So organic has to meet a specific definition, free of certain levels of herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, and maybe if they are used, they are more natural forms of those that are used. So also keep those concepts in mind. So apart from all of these concepts that I've shared with you, if persons want to consider whether they should adopt a blood type approach or any other type of approach, it's very important to keep in mind that when you are building a house, for example, if I may use that example, you do not build the walls and the roof without building a foundation. The importance of our health is to have that foundation. Are we catering to our healthy mind, or even our sleep hygiene? Are we going to bed when we should? Are we turning off the devices? Are we turning off the ambient light? Are we enjoying and taking advantage of the sun, sea, and sand? And the sun is very important to our emotional health, our well-being, and even to the processing of certain nutrients in the body. The sea is very important, and by extension, mineral bath, if that's available. And I know there are mineral baths in Jamaica, which we enjoy when we were living there and when we do visit. Springs and rivers, these are really important. And the sand, in the sea or even the springs, the mineral bath, take off your rubbery shoes, put your feet on the sand, and ensure that you get a good supply of positive electrons as well as minerals that may come from the soil itself. And incorporating different food groups and colors. So it's important to incorporate different colors into our diet. And looking at this infographic here, the colors of health, there are 5 basic colors of health, and we need to include them into our diet because they have implications to prevent certain diseases, as well as, it just adds color to our diet. So here they are. And just a quick slide here to show what we can utilize our fruits and vegetables to do. It's not just eating or drinking. We can use them in various ways. Now, I'm not sure how much time I have left, but I would like to get some interaction from the audience to talk more about the blood type and how it may affect us in a positive or even a negative way. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So are there any questions so far from the audience? All right, so I'd like to share a little bit more about my practice as a nutrition consultant, and even if time permits, I'll share my personal story. So let's talk about the O blood type. And I said that because it's a very common blood type, the commonest of all 4 blood types. And they are called the hunters. And this is a high protein diet based largely on meat, fish, poultry, certain fruits and vegetables, but limited in grains, legumes, and dairy. It closely resembles the paleo diet. And with the O diet, type O, they tend to not respond positively to gluten-rich foods such as wheat and dairy. They tend to they tend to rank high when it comes to thyroidism, right? As well as they respond better to endurance exercises, so long distance exercises, hard exercises. Of course, the relaxation exercises such as yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, they do well with those as well, but they respond better to vigorous exercise. Okay, so from my approach, what I have been doing over the years, I would meet up on persons with the type O, so the O blood type, whether O positive or O negative, but mostly O positive. And what I've found is patterns. So before they even mention what their blood type is, they will come in and say, I'm experiencing sensitivity. I realize when I eat wheat or bread, I find that I don't feel so good. When I consume dairy, I get mucousy, I have itching, I have irritability in my stomach. And these persons, you may also find that they rank high with thyroidism. So they have a susceptibility to thyroidism. And so when we cross-check with the blood type diet, these are all the foods that are listed for persons with O blood type that they should avoid. Now, persons may say, well, I am type A, blood type A, and I don't have any issues. Now, that's not the approach. The approach is, as I've mentioned, if you have these issues, sensitivities to food, you're finding that you're responding in a negative way. So you keep on getting the sinus infection, the thyroid, the tonsil infections, and you do not know why, then this is the approach that we take. When these persons come off these foods, they find that they respond even better to their diet. So that's one. There are a few others, but we find that type O tends to respond the highest because just the dynamics of the type O diet. If I may mention personally, for me, I am a type O, so I'm an O positive. And over the years, I found that I had some health issues that I just could not figure it out. I just did not know why I was having these health issues. And I actually started to read a book that I have in the reference section. That's by Dr. Don Colbert. And he is a medical doctor, but he's also a nutritionist. And I read his books. I followed his recommendations. So what I did before I even knew about the type O approach was I decided I was going to just eat natural foods, come off the bread, and nothing is wrong with bread. The point about it is that because a lot of these foods are highly processed, they are highly processed. Some of these foods are laced with herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, and you can call them all insecticides. And so, it's just a whole dynamic issue there taking place. So I ate from the backyard. I ate what was local. I tried to eat as organic as I possibly could. And I did not fry any food, so no processed foods. The foods were probably just steamed, boiled, or baked. The only animal food that I ate was fish. I consumed more beans, and I consumed heart-healthy fats. And what I found is that the symptoms started to disappear. So all the acid reflux, all the allergies, my skin started to clear up. I found that my skin was glowing. I did lose some weight as well. That was not the intent, but it was a welcome benefit from the approach that I took. I drank water. I took out sugars, so no added sugars, only the natural sugars from juices and, natural juices and fresh squeezed or fresh pressed juices, whether vegetables or fruits. And I found that I was responding very well. As a matter of fact, I did not realize how impactful that diet was to me until person started to compliment me on how well I looked, how my skin was glowing, that sort of thing. However, as time went by, I resumed my normal way of eating. The symptoms returned, excuse me, and I decided to try the diet again, but this time I tried raw foods. So I went on the raw foods diet, and I did it twice. And I realized that twice all the symptoms went. So these 3 times I attempted my own intervention, and I'm not telling you to do it on your own, because there are other things you need to do as well to ensure that you support your liver and your kidneys. So don't try to go home and do it on your own. You got to know what you're doing. But I'm just sharing my story with you. And all the symptoms went. Sinusitis went, all the other allergies to food. But I still did not pick up that I was sensitive to gluten, I was sensitive to dairy, and I was sensitive to MSG. So that's monosodium glutamate. It was not until I spoke with 2 medical doctors, and they said to me, maybe you should try coming off wheat for a while. And they mentioned other foods that I needed to try coming off: the wheat products and the dairy products. And eventually, when I did that in conjunction with an allergy test, I was able to confirm that I did have allergies and sensitivities to specific foods that align with the blood type diet. So I hope that my story and my clinical approach and all that I shared with you today would shed some light on the diet and its benefits and what you need to do. So not just to get up and say, oh, I'm going to eat that, I'm not going to eat that, but the process of elimination approach, so that you can feel better about yourself, have a better mood, have better response to foods, live your life, and not have all those aches and pains and inflammations and sick days from work. Because I know that Yui needs you to continue to effect positive social change, not just in Jamaica, but the wider Caribbean. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, you are most welcome, Mrs. Graham-Charles. Oh my gosh, you opened my eyes to a lot of things that I wasn't expecting. And don't I have some questions for you? And we do have some in the chat. I see Mechi has raised his hand as well. But before we go right into that, we want a deeper interaction. I'm going to unveil the surprise guest that we have. We have a surprise guest that will tie up our theme for us, and then we just unload all the questions that Miss Johnston, a committee member, would do on her behalf. All right. I am really excited because I saw books before, and I didn't hear anybody talking about this topic of the blood type. And I'm saying, okay, why is it that every time, the only time the question of blood type comes up is when we have to do a blood transfusion, or we have to give blood or receive, the very essence of blood transfusion. So I'll go right into the introduction of our surprise guest. All right, Mrs. Kayon Brooks-Robinson wears more than just one hat. She wears the hat of a nutrition consultant who sits at the Portmore Hospital Complex and Rima Medicals. In the office of a nutrition consultant, she specializes in nutrition management of lifestyle diseases. As the founder of Optimal Body Nutrition Jamaica, she and her team seek to provide nutrition education and management to different individuals, groups, and institutions. She is nutrition presenter as well as a nutrition advisor at Nestle Jamaica for over 4 years. And for those of us who are just coming in, welcome again. I am Ruth Rooms, your moderator, and I am so happy that we could all gather here today to learn at this another of Luca's webinar. And I see Mrs. Lewis Marshall, Jessica Lewis Marshall, that is also here. And I welcome you. Okay, so let me just go ahead and welcome Mrs. Kayon Brooks-Robinson, our surprise presenter, and Mr. Heron or Miss Johnston. I would ask you, please, if you could give her the permission to share her screen, or we may have to do it on her behalf. Mrs. Kayon Brooks-Robinson, are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Go
Good
ahead.
morning, everyone.
Screen sharing privileges.
Pardon? Okay, she already has it.
I do.
Yes,
All right.
so you could just go right ahead. Let's try it and see.
Give me a minute. Let me try it.
Okay. All right. And how are you feeling in the meantime?
I'm feeling good. It's a pleasure to be here. Every opportunity to share, to educate, to enlighten about this area of nutrition. I am welcome. I'm enjoying it. I love the discussion, especially the blood type diet. It's very interesting. Yes, it's something that I always wanted to hear about.
Yes.
So it was a pleasure. Everybody see my screen?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay. So today I'm going to be discussing nutrition for a better you. Nutrition for a better you. So we all want to feel very good daily, right? We want to be energized. We want to be productive at work. We want to produce our best. But how can we produce our best if we're not feeding our body what our body actually needs every single day? And not just feeding our body. How can we actually produce our best if we're not sleeping? How can we produce and be very much productive in our workplace or our church or our environment if we are not exercising? So there's three main things that I normally focus on whenever I'm talking about being the better you are, being the best version of yourself. Eat, sweat, sleep, and repeat the process. We know that sometimes we feel the hype. We get a presentation like this and we know exactly what to do, and we'll go ahead and buy the right set of things to eat. So we do it today, or we hear something on the news or the radio about exercise and we go ahead and enroll in a gym and we do it for a week. Or maybe we just get some opportunity to sleep and we sleep for 8 hours today. But one of the problem is that we are not being consistent with this. So it's not just eating, sweating, and sleeping, but repeating this process. Consistency is what drives change. So now I'm just going to dive in my presentation. So today we will cover nutrition. What is nutrition? General versus individual approach to eating, meal planning basics, physical activity recommendation, and living the good life, how to live the good life. All right, so what is nutrition? Nutrition is basically how we interact with nutrients, how our body responds to nutrients. We have macronutrients, we have micronutrients, nutrients in which our body requires in large amounts like our fats, or protein, or carbohydrate, and we have micronutrients such as our minerals and our vitamins. So nutrition focuses on how people can use dietary choices to reduce the risk of diseases. So individualized nutrition versus general nutrition. We don't all live the same life, right? We don't work the same place. We don't eat the same things. We don't like the same things. We don't have access to the same type of food. So we're very diverse. We're different in a lot of ways. We don't attend the same church. Some of us are Adventists. Some of us are Sunday worshipers. Some of us are Muslims. So we don't eat the same thing. So we are different. Individualized nutrition is totally different from general nutrition. A general nutrition focuses on a population. What is needed for this population to be healthy? What are some of the guidelines can this population take in order to lead a healthy lifestyle? So a general nutrition advice does not single out the individual, what is needed for the individual, but it look on us as a whole, a body, a country, a people. So what is needed for us to be healthy? So different people react differently to different food. I might eat bread today. I might eat bread and I respond okay to it, but another person might eat bread and they might feel sick. Right? Banana is healthy for one individual, but somebody else might consume the same food and they react differently to it. So we are not the same. We react differently to food. Individualized nutrition considers that each person is different in their genetic makeup. As we heard the presenter said, we have different blood type, and different blood type reacts differently to different foods. So we are not the same. General nutrition does not take into account your personal goals. So if I am underweight, is the requirements the same for a person that's underweight and overweight? It cannot be the same. It does not take into consideration that you need to gain weight and I need to lose weight, or you are on a particular medication and I am suffering from a different type of diseases that requires an individualized approach. So this is an example of a general approach to nutrition, the food-based dietary guidelines. And it has 8 different guidelines that give us healthy eating tips, how to remain and live a healthy lifestyle, how we can incorporate physical activity in our daily routine. It is basically giving us healthy advice, healthy tips on how to incorporate healthy choices in our lives daily. But does this approach actually focuses on us as an individual? Does this approach take into consideration if I'm suffering from diabetes? Should I be consuming a lot of fruits? Because I hear fruits is healthy, right? So I can eat it, or I can eat a banana, an apple, a melon in one sitting because it's healthy food. No, the individualized approach focuses on the individual. It does not take into consideration you as a general entity. It look as you and as an individual. So one of the consideration for managing something like diabetes, where the individual approach is concerned, is to manage the carbohydrate content of the meal. You know that we don't only get carbohydrates from our fruits, we get carbohydrate from legumes and nuts. We get carbohydrate from our staples. We get carbohydrate from milk. A lot of person might think that even though some of these choices are healthy, like we should eat a lot of nuts, but if a person is diabetic, the individualized approach focuses on how to limit or how to manage this person, ensure that they are sticking to their carbohydrate budget. If I should have a meal that includes baked bean and rice, they are both carbohydrate source, how to limit it so that our body receive the amount that we're supposed to get. That is one of the things that the individualized approach focuses on. The second thing is that carefully select carbohydrate sources. So you have brown bread and you have white bread. They're the same amount of starches in both. The difference is the fiber. What should I select if I have diabetes? You will tend to go for the one that is greater in fiber because you have a diabetes. So the individualized approach will focus mainly on carefully selecting that. The next thing is to monitor the blood sugar intake consistently and make dietary adjustment as needed. If today I'm going to be invited to a birthday party and I want to have a slice of cake, where can that cake fit into my diet? Where exactly should that cake fit? How can I consume this thing without my blood sugar spike and I go over into hyperglycemia? What can I do to monitor these things? So these are some of the things that the individualized approach take into consideration. The fourth thing is that manage your saturated fats. Even though diabetes is a disease that actually affects your blood sugar, it is not necessarily a disease that is caused by sugar. It's mainly caused, especially type 2, it is mainly caused by elevated amount of fat, especially saturated fat in the diet. It makes it harder to manage your diabetes if you are overweight, if you're obese. So we normally look at managing our saturated fat. Saturated fats are the fat that you get from animal products, such as your whole milk, your sausage, your eggs. Those contains a lot of saturated fat. And the last one is to increase your fiber consumption. The individualized approach will focus on increasing your fiber consumption for diabetes, because even though you consume the white bread and the brown bread, same amount of starch, the white bread is refined, so that will spike your blood sugar. We normally tend to look for ways in which we can incorporate fiber into the diet to prevent the blood sugar spike and to delay gastric emptying. If the gastric emptying is delayed, then we won't be so hungry every minute and won't consume a lot of food all the time. So we normally tend to incorporate a lot of fiber into the diet of diabetics. So the individualized approach is best for a person living with diabetes. The next consideration is to consider an individualized approach for somebody living with renal failure. A renal failure patient or renal failure individual, cannot take on the general approach to nutrition, because even though this approach is healthy for a regular person, it is not healthy necessarily for a person suffering from renal disease. Bear in mind, the management of renal disease varies depending on the stage, but there are certain things that we still need to manage. One other thing is fluid restriction. We often hear that, oh, you should drink a lot of water, and water is good. It is good, but if a person suffering from renal failure, we normally put them on fluid restriction. The doctor normally tells they're restricted to get this amount of fluid for the day. And we, as the individualized approach, focus on, okay, this person is consuming soups, porridges, different ways in which they have a lot of fluid throughout the day. How can this amount of fluid add up to the amount that they're supposed to have for the day? So you put them on a fluid restriction. The third one is to manage the consumption of potassium. The general approach to eating will tell you that, okay, ripe bananas and a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, they are okay. But the individualized approach focus on what are the type of vegetables and fruits that are high in potassium. Limit them, restrict them, depending on the stage, because these are the type of foods that will cause the renal failure. If it, let's say it is stage 3, to progress even more. It will be hard for you to manage depending on how much you are consuming. So it's best to have an individualized approach whenever you are dealing with conditions such as your end-stage renal failure. And the next one is to manage the consumption of phosphorus. Is this patient on, or is this person on phosphorus binders? What are the different sources of phosphorus in this person's diet? How to limit or restrict them depending on the stages. So the individualized approach focus on those specific nutrients or electrolyte groups. And finally, manage the consumption of sodium. A lot of person might think that, oh, it's only, sodium is only adding salt to food. No. Ensure that whenever you're looking out for sodium, you look out for the food labels. Please read the food labels whenever you're purchasing stuff, and don't necessarily depend on taste to say, oh, this tastes salty because this is high in sodium. No, reading the food label will tell you that a Saldanza banana chips has less salt comparing to two crackers. If you look at the food labels and you look at the serving sizes and you look at the amount of sodium is in it, and you say, well, oh, a banana chip salty, so this has a lot of sodium, I'm not going to eat it, versus 2 crackers. The food label is what makes the difference. That will inform you and tell you, oh, this product has more sodium than this. So we normally look out for the sodium contents of meal for somebody that has renal failure. So now you will see that the individualized approach is best for people suffering from different conditions. If you have specific goals, if you need certain dietary management, such as you have food intolerance, then an individualized approach is best versus one that is general, because we don't live general life. We are not general. We don't work the same place. I don't work on a construction site versus somebody that sit down every day. We don't require the same amount of calories, right? Next is meal planning using the multi-mix principle. So it is very important to combine foods the right way to achieve nutritional balance. So in order for your meal to be balanced, it's best to combine them in the right way. The multi-mix principle is a guide for combining foods from complementary food groups to assure nutritional balance. So we have 3 main mix that we normally utilize. The first one is the double mix. That's the basic, staple and food from animal, chicken and rice. That's the basic thing. You don't have any vegetable, you don't have any fruit, you have your chicken and rice, you have your ground provision with a little mackerel. That's the basic mix, right? The next one is the triple mix, in which you have your staple foods, your food from animal, and your vegetables. And the last mix, which is the one that is best advised, is the one you have staple food from animal or legumes for the vegetarians, vegetables plus your fruits. That's the mix that we advise the most. And that's the mix that will ensure that you get everything that you're supposed to be getting nutritionally. You need your healthy fats, you need your staples for energy, you need your vegetables for vitamins and minerals, and you also need your fruits for vitamins and minerals. No one food has every single nutrient. Ensure that you are combining them in a way to ensure that it is nutritionally balanced. Okay. Physical activity. A lot of persons think that, oh, I'm going to enroll in the gym. They start this week and they stop. Why? Lack of consistency. The recommendation is that we should at least do 150 minutes of aerobic exercise for the week. 150 minutes is 30 minutes for the day. How many of us get 30 minutes for the day? First thing we do, we park our car so near to our workplace because we can't bother walk. We take the elevator instead of the stairs because we don't want to incorporate any form of physical activity. I'm late for work, so I have to reach my desk very quick. And I have a lot of work to do, so I can't exercise today. Then tomorrow, next excuse come. Every day is a different excuse not to exercise until you realize that I'm overweight or my blood sugar is out of control. I cannot control this thing. I need to enroll in a gym for the accountability. I need somebody to push me to exercise. So I have to get a gym trainer. Guys, start from 30 minutes. 30 minutes of exercise, that's the least for aerobics exercise, and 2 days for strength training. A lot of persons do the opposite. They want to lift weights every day, and you ask, how many times for the week you get aerobics exercise? Oh, I walk for 10 minutes just for the day. Bear in mind, walking for 10 minutes throughout the day, not throughout the day, walking for 10 minutes, it adds up to the 30 minutes. But if you only walk for 10 minutes as your aerobic exercise for the day, that's not 30 minutes, right? No. So ensure that you're getting 30 minutes of aerobics exercise and 2 days of strength training. So you want to lift weights, 2 days. 2 days. That's the least. Then physical activity aids in weight management. If you want to manage your weight, you have to exercise. There's no two-way around it. Exercising will help you to build muscle. When your body build muscle, your body basically burn fat even sitting right here. So not doing anything, your body have muscle, it burns fat even at rest. So ensure that you're exercising. Physical activity releases hormones that will help to manage stress. You want to boost your endorphins, you're cranky in the morning, you don't have enough energy because you just eat a high-fat breakfast. Go on all a walk, go on all a exercise. Go and do some form of activity with a group, form a group, and ensure that there's accountability. You have Sister Jane. You wake up this morning, we have to exercise. Man, I don't feel the mood. You have somebody to push you. Yeah, man, we have to do it. We have a goal. We want to reach 150 pounds by this time. Have your accountability partner. That is very key. And your mood will build. Your endorphins will increase, your moods will build. I know that in a session like this, you feel all hyped up, you feel all encouraged to do it, to eat healthy, to exercise. But as I said before, consistency is key. And if you cannot be consistent on your own, have an accountability partner, have somebody to push you, have somebody to say, no, you cannot eat this. This is not healthy for you. Have somebody to say, no, you just eat 2 biscuits already. You can't eat so much for the day. You're diabetic, go and hold a walk, have your accountability partner. And the last point is physical activity aids in blood sugar management for pre-diabetes and diabetics. If you want to manage your blood sugar, exercise. Simple as that. Exercise. Go and hold a walk. Go and exercise. Go and do something that involves physical activity. If it's even for run around and play with the children, swim, go to the beach, anything that will cause you to be engaged, bust some sweat, anything like that will help you to lose some weight and to manage your blood sugar. Ensure that you're incorporating different ways of physical activity into your daily schedule. how to use the nutrition to create a better you. We all want to feel energized, right? We all want to wake up, we feel like we can slay a giant, we can kill Goliath, we can, master this day, we can accomplish any task. Sadly, most of the times we wake up, we want to go back to bed because one, we're on the phone the whole night, we don't get enough sleep, we eat a big pizza before we go to bed, so we feel very lugged, right? And we don't feel energized. One of the worst things is to eat and feel like you don't have energy. Anybody ever feel that way? You just don't eat something, you feel lugged, you want to sleep, you don't feel no energy. No, ensure that you're eating properly. So let me tell you some of the ways to make a better you. One, use a multi-mix principle. Ensure that whenever you're eating, you have your plate, you look on it, you say, is this a double mix? Is this a triple mix? Is this a 4 mix? Is there 4 different nutrient group on my plate? Where's my vegetable? Where is my fruit? Look on your plate. If there's nothing that says fruits or vegetable or staple, then you know it's not nutritionally balanced. So if I'm hungry and I just eat every minute some ramen noodle, that's just staples. Where is the protein in that? Where is the vegetable? Add some pumpkin to it, add some chicken breast or some peas and beans and make it nutritionally balanced, right? So you use the multi-mix principle to balance out your meals. Make appropriate purchases based on your needs. Don't go to the supermarket without a plan. One of the things we tend to do, go there, right? Because our house is empty and we don't know what to buy. So we just pick up random stuff. And because we pick up random stuff, a lot of unhealthy things is in the house. And because there's a lot of unhealthy choices, we don't have any healthy things to choose from. Once it is not in the house, you're not going to consume it. If you go to the market and you don't buy any fruits and vegetables, or is it that you're going to eat fruits and vegetables throughout the week? If you have a lot of sweet biscuit, a lot of cake, if that's all you're purchasing at the supermarket, how is it that you're going to make healthier choice? So ensure that you go to, you purchase different foods, you have a plan, right? You have a plan whenever you're purchasing foods. Use healthy cooking methods. You know that you can turn a perfectly healthy dish into an unhealthy one? Yes, you can turn a perfectly healthy dish into an unhealthy. Think about in Jamaica, whenever we're creating things like our baked beans and rice. The gravy is oil, right? Something as healthy as beans, where we get a lot of fiber, it is low in fat, and the gravy is oil, a lot of oil. Think of something like ackee that is also a high fat dish, and you load it with a lot of oil, and you choose to combine it with something like fried dumpling plus pear. You think about how much fat you're getting from that, just that one dish, and compound that with the fact that you're sitting at work, right? You're not getting any physical activity. You're not walking, and you're just going to sit there for what? 8 hours of work. And you're going home and you're going to eat something late at night and sleep. So that's a lot of fat and you're not burning anything. So now you understand why we have a lot of weight issues in the Caribbean, right? The cooking methods, you can turn healthy dishes into unhealthy one by how you prepare it. Ensure that you're using cooking method that doesn't have a lot of oil, and ensure that you're using methods that incorporate healthy things. So you can bake it, you can grill it, you can barbecue it, put it in the oven, but ensure that you're not adding a lot of oils to it. All right. The next one is to monitor your intake of fruits and vegetables. The body recognizes fruits, even though it is healthy, it have a lot of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Sugar is sugar for the body. The body don't know, okay, this sugar is coming from soda and this sugar is coming from fruits. Once they say, oh, this is lovely, I'm going to have a nice big fruit basket for my breakfast, it's still a lot of sugar. If you're overweight, you still should monitor your intake of sugar. If you're diabetic, even though fruits is healthy, you still should monitor your intake of sugar. So monitor your intakes of fruits and vegetable. Well, for the vegetable, barring if you don't add fat to it, so a lot of fat in our vegetable, especially on Sundays. When doing steamed veg, you add a lot of fat. If you're not putting a lot of fat into it, no problem, no limitation to the vegetable. But once you're adding fat to it, then you can limit and monitor your intake. For the fruits, monitor the amount of sugar that you're consuming. Ensure that it is within your carbohydrate budget. If I'm allowed 15 grams of carbohydrate for snack time, how much is 15 grams of carbohydrate of fruits if I'm going to eat that for a snack? Is 2 bananas over the limit? is a banana plus a pint. Know how much carbohydrate you should have and stick to it to ensure that you're not going overboard. And last but not least, have regular meals, including breakfast. You know that we're busy people who wake up very early, and you see, because we go to our bed late, we wake up maybe an hour late. And you know that it take a while, especially as ladies, to get ready. We rush out and we skip breakfast. And before we know it, oh, so lunchtime. You see, because you miss breakfast, you want to make up at lunchtime, right? So a big box food, you want to have a big lunch. That is one of the things that is going to cause your blood sugar to spike. It's going to cause your body not to burn fat easily. It is not going to make you control or monitor your blood sugar the way it's supposed to. To have a steady and consistent blood sugar, you need to be eating your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and ensure that you're eating on time. It cannot be today you're eating breakfast 9 o'clock. Then my breakfast tomorrow is 12 o'clock because I don't have work and I'm sleeping late. I'm going to sleep in bed late. So I'm going to eat breakfast 12 o'clock when I wake up. Then the next day, I'm waking up early because I want to exercise. So breakfast is 7 o'clock. No, consistency is key. Have regular meals at regular time to ensure that you are striking your balance and to create a healthier and better you, right? So the key to remember is to eat a variety. No one food contains everything. If you don't eat callaloo and you need the iron, find other sources for it. Eat a variety of things. Don't stick to the cornmeal porridge and the chicken and rice every day. Mix it up. Today you have some staples. Today you have some cornmeal porridge. Tomorrow you use oatmeal porridge. Next day you have grown provision. The next day you can have some, what else? Roast breadfruit. Have a variety. That way you can get variety of nutrients. Eat the rainbow, as the presenter before say. Different colors provide different things for the body. Eat a variety of foods. Don't stick to one thing every day. Don't just cook one day for the week. It's the chicken and rice. This is going to serve me for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No, mix it up. Throw in some ground provision into it sometime. Throw in some wraps. Throw in something other than rice and peas and chicken every single day. You need variety. We are people of variety, right?
Yes, we are. Oh,
I know it's a mouthful, right? All right. So
yes.
living the good life. What can you do to build a better you? In essence, one, eat healthy. I just said it before. Eat healthy. Use the multi-mix principle to combine your foods, right? Eat a
Yes.
variety of foods from the 6 food groups and ensure that you're eating on time. Simple as that. Simple as that. Don't wait until you don't do all of this till you go into renal failure or high blood pressure or diabetes. And that way your meals have to be restricted. You want, whenever you want to enjoy a piece of KFC, you can enjoy it, right? Without hearing that you can't enjoy it. Ensure
Yes.
that you're eating healthy so that you can enjoy a variety of food. You don't want the restrictions. Next is to make healthier choices easier. If your canteen at your workplace, don't serve vegetable. Make it easier for yourself. Don't say, oh, they don't serve enough vegetable at work, Walk with your container, walk with a cucumber into it, cut it up. Cut up your tomato slices. Ensure that your vegetable is readily available. Ensure that you're having your water daily. If you don't have a fridge at work, freeze your water from the day before and bring it so that you have it throughout the day, right? Ensure that you're incorporating different fruits that are filled with water, such as watermelon. If you realize that your fluid intake is not enough. You have different ways to make your life easier. It's just for us to sit down and put things in place so that our lives can be easier for us to make healthier choices. If we really want to do something, we do it. If Visa give out an embassy, do you reach early? Everybody going to reach early. If the ear son, everybody's going to get visa at embassy, right? Because it's something that you really want. People make effort for what they really want. So ensure that you put things in place so that healthier choices become easier. Go to shopping with your grocery list. Make it easier for yourself. Don't make it hard. I cannot resist this banana chips. No, I don't. You know why you can't resist it? Because you just look randomly in any aisle because you don't walk with the grocery list. If you walk with the grocery list and you say, oh, I need cornmeal porridge, I need cornmeal, I need oatmeal, and I need a tin of milk. That's the only thing that you're going for because you have a list, you have a plan, right? So make it make healthier choice easier for yourself, keep moving. Incorporate exercise into your daily life. Simple as that. Hold a walk. You don't have to run in it. Not everybody's a runner. Some people can walk. Walk briskly. If you cannot jog, start from walking. If you don't have time to exercise, make it intentional. There's a stairs at work. Take the stairs and don't take the elevator. Oh, I don't want to be sweaty. I don't want to sweat up throughout the day. All right. I'll find a group of us that want to lose weight or want to control our blood sugar or just want to exercise, and I'll be my accountability partner from that. Ensure that you're putting things in place to exercise. It has to be intentional. It is so easy to start and stop. Don't wait on motivation to start exercise. No, just try and be consistent. It's not all the time you get, honestly, it's not all the time you get up, you feel like bathing in the morning. But you know, you have to do it, right? It's a must. And you try find ways in which will motivate. And if you don't feel motivated, you just have to do it. So you do it. Make exercise that thing. You just have to exercise. So whether or not the feeling is there, you exercise. Okay. Last but not least is stress relief. We are so stressed. Our jobs are so stressful. We have like 1,000,001 things to do. And even though we are eating healthy, we are exercise, lack of stress management can cause your blood sugar to spike. Lack of stress management can cause us to really end up in Bellevue. It can cause us to end up somewhere that we don't want to end up. Find different ways to manage your stress. Exercising is one way to manage your stress. If you can't use exercise, listening to music, dancing, talking to friends. Don't hold it inside. Going to church, releasing. Find something that you can do to relieve your stress. Whenever you're feeling stress, let's say it's a stress ball will help you to relieve that stress. And I'm not talking acute stress on the body. I'm talking chronic stress. Oh, I have this child and him keep on bothering me. Every day I sit down and think about it, and it stressed me out so much. My blood sugar spike, even though I'm seeing the nutritionist to control my blood sugar, even though I'm seeing the doctor and I'm on a lot of medication for this thing. But why my blood sugar is still high? Why is it that my blood pressure is still high? Because you're not managing your stress. Proper stress management can cure a lot of different things, or it can manage a lot of different things. Find what works for you. Exercise might work for you, but drawing might work for me. Dancing might work for you, but talking about it is what works for me. Find whatever works for you and manage that stress. Don't make it get out of control. Your body is meant to survive, so any way your body is going to use to survive. So if it's either to raise that blood sugar just to survive, your body is going to use it. So ensure that you're finding different ways to manage your stress. And that's the end of my presentation.
Wow. I don't know about anybody else, but my toes are burning because my coins were mashed today. And it's a rich presentation as well as the first, and I'm just happy that we were here to enjoy and to learn from it. I mean, I have questions, I have notes I've been writing, and I'm going to allow for the audience to ask their questions first. So we're going to start with the first presenter. That's Mrs. Dorothy Graham-Charles, and then we will go right back to our second presenter so that we just do it in order. But one thing I know that jumped out at me when I was trying to gel the two presentations is that they individualized the diet. So it comes right back to you watching your blood type and watching what you consume and how it reacts to your body. So I'm really grateful to our presenters. I'm really grateful to what I have learned here, and I'm sure the rest of us can attest to that. So Miss Nicole Johnston, you can go, we'll go over to you and what you have noted, the questions in the chat. But I remember our chair also had his hand up. We welcome you, Dr. Palmer, in the interim. Yes, so go. We are over to you now, Miss. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Graham-Charles and Mrs. Kayon Robinson. Wow. There's a question in the chat from Miss Bernadette Warren Johnson. Bernadette, she's asking if you can speak more on the rhesus negative. It's got I think it's a protein type where if you have the rhesus negative or the rhesus positive. So she's more interested in the negative part of it. I don't know if either of you ladies can clarify that for Mrs. Warren Johnson.
Okay, thank you for that question. So I responded to Mrs. Worrell Johnson privately. I can repost the links I shared with her in the general chat. There are similarities. Keep in mind that the blood type diet is fairly new within the past 20 years. So there's more research. And when I say research, maybe clinical discoveries. So the pioneers in the blood type diet, as they make more discoveries, they are able to compartmentalize the findings. And so the positive and the negative, there are similarities, yes. And also, as I mentioned, eating within one's jurisdiction according to what their dominant race may be. So as I mentioned that, so that is being explored now, and what they're finding that persons within a specific jurisdiction, they tend to have sensitivities to specific foods. So I'm going to repost the link. You can check out the article and you can look at it again. But what I would like to highlight is that, as I've mentioned, is that everybody does not necessarily need to go down that road or jump on the blood type bandwagon. What we really need to look at is if you are experiencing adverse health issues and you cannot figure out why. So I want to stress that you don't know why, all the interventions are not working for you. This is a recommended approach. Keeping in mind that, for example, if this person is eating at every fast food restaurant every single day, they're not exercising, they're not getting enough sleep, they're not drinking water. If you see where I'm going with this, you understand? So, they can't really do all of these things and then call foul. They need to ensure that they have a foundation. Ms. Robinson spoke about that as well. So I believe the message has really gone home that we need to have a proper foundation in terms of eating or lifestyle or sleep hygiene and all of that. And once we're doing all of those things and we realize, okay, we cannot figure out what the problem is, the blood type approach is one approach. Also, keep in mind, as I've mentioned, that many times persons, especially with allergies, may pinpoint one thing, but usually allergies or cancers or autoimmune disorders, other disorders, is not a single item that we can pinpoint. It's usually a multifactorial issue. Yes. So, for example, persons may have, say they are allergic to this particular food. When they eat it, they find they have this sensitivity. Let me give an idea. I've had discussions with persons across the health sector over the years. And what you would find is that persons, especially persons that travel, they will say to you, when I eat bread in this particular country, or when I drink red wine in this particular country, or when I eat specific foods, I find there's sensitivity. But when I go to like Spain or Europe or certain countries where, it's grown there and they don't use a lot of these pesticides and herbicides, etc., they find that they don't have the same kind of response to the same food items. So, always keep that in mind, your jurisdiction, what are the other environmental factors that are taking place. If you have an organic farm and your neighbor has a mechanic shop beside your organic farm, all of those other things that you probably wouldn't look at on an ordinary day, those factors should be taken into consideration.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Graham-Charles. Can we have the next? I think I saw two other questions in the chat. And then Mr. Heron has been waiting. So there's one from Twiddy, and I would ask Mrs. Charles to repeat what she had said in the chat to Mrs. Stewart.
Okay, I think that was in response to the A blood type, I think, or B blood type. Okay,
yes.
wonderful. All right, so to the question about the B blood type, whether it's positive or negative, again, as I mentioned, research is ongoing. So maybe over time, they'll be able to distinguish between the positive and the negative blood types. But in general, the B blood type, you saw the list there on my slide, but I also mentioned it, where, and keep in mind, for all blood types, we need to eat fruits and vegetables. So there's no blood type will tell you no fruits, no vegetables. No, nothing goes like that. We all need to eat fruits and vegetables, and we need to ensure that we're including our leafy greens, because a lot of people eat fruits and vegetables, but especially the vegetables, they'll only eat the sweet ones. So they don't like the spinach and the broccoli and the cauliflower. So those that don't really have a lot of nice taste to it, they're not sweet, they're not very flavorful, just at a bite, but maybe when you add other things or blend it with other foods, they taste really good. And I would just give a shout out to all the parents here, especially those with small children. Introduce these foods early as possible.
True.
Of course, give them that window of 6 months exclusive breastfeeding. That's very important. But as age appropriate, and you can introduce foods, introduce them early so that when it's time for them to eat these foods full on, it's not a challenge for them. So all the blood types need to include fruits and vegetables. Yes, there are specific fruits, there are specific vegetables that they may say, okay, when you eat it based on your disorder, it may not work well for you. So for example, if persons have thyroid issues, they'll say, try to exclude the goitrogenic ones. And if you know your chemistry and your biology and all of that, you will know that all foods will contain what we call phytonutrients, right? Or plant secondary metabolites. And these metabolites, called goitrogens, are in certain foods, especially the cruciferous vegetables or the ones from Brassica family. And persons with thyroid issues will respond negatively to those foods. And of course, those are highlighted as foods not appropriate for certain blood types that tend to have the thyroid disorder. So that's just one example, right? So the list is there. It would be nice to hear from Mrs. Stuart Myers. You could inbox me and let me know if you respond more to vigorous exercises or exercises that are more calming. You know, if you probably look at personality too, those who are bubbly like me, I need to ride 10 miles to get all the stress out, you know? And if somebody's having a conversation with me and they're taking long to say what they have to say, I lose patience. Just say it and get it over. It's just a personality, right? But in general, the foods I've listed there in the chat, you know, poultry foods are not recommended. But as again, it's good to know if you have sensitivity to certain foods, then you're able to look at the blood type approach and see if it's really true based on what they're saying there, you know, whether you're responding to them in a positive way or when you take them out of your diet, you feel better.
Bloomfield's question is, what is the raw food diet?
Okay, so the raw food diet. So let me go be more specific. So the raw food diet that I did was the plant-based raw food diets, because you have raw food diets where they actually eat raw meat. So they may juice it, you know, or even byproducts of raw meat. So, but I'm talking about the plant-based raw food diets where no food is cooked. So no heat. The only heat maybe is just a little, you know, maybe if you make like a pumpkin soup and you just warm it just a little bit to warm your stomach. But for a number of days, for me, I did 14 days or 2 weeks. And so no cooked food, all natural foods. And so I would start my day with something like a cereal. So soak down the cereal, the oats and the dried fruits. And of course, for lunch, I may do like a salad. And then for evening time, I may do like a warm soup or a smoothie, and I mixed it up. I had like fruits and vegetables for a snack. And so that's what the raw food diet is actually eating over a period of time. It could be 1 day, 3 days, but usually you want about 14 to 21 days to see the effect, the positive effect. What I should note about that though, because what happens is that you're eating healthier, a lot of the toxic substance in your body will start to wreak havoc in your body. So you need to ensure that you're taking the supplements for liver support, kidney support, you're flushing your system with purified water, you're having your vitamins and minerals, or you're doing your juicing. So for that sort of diet, it's nice to listen and hear it. There are persons on YouTube or TikTok doing it, but if you don't know what you're doing, it can be harmful to you because, of course, of the bacterial die-off. So be sure to consult with a professional who knows about that diet and would be able to guide you appropriately.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Graham-Charles. I have 2 more questions for you. I'll go with the first one. How long, what's the time period or the time interval between meals? What's the recommended time span between each meal?
The recommended time between meals, it depends. My answer is it depends. So if somebody has acid reflux, for argument's sake, it has to be very strategic because, and it depends on the severity, depends on the trigger foods, all of that. If somebody has irritability bowel syndrome, again, it depends because there are certain foods they would not want to eat together, so they may have to space them out. Usually, what we recommend, it has to be individualized, just as Mrs. Robinson said. But typically, you don't want to be eating a whole plate of food and within the next hour you're eating again. And what happens to a lot of us in the Caribbean, we don't give ourselves time to be hungry. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yes. And we need to, and I think it's how we socialize too. So they're eating a big plate of food, and then within the next hour again, they're eating something, they're drinking something, gulping, and you're always full. You need to give yourself time to feel hungry. We really need to eat smaller meals, and a 9-inch plate is a good reference point. And then we can eat every 2 hours, every 4 hours, depending on what's going on in your life. For an athlete, they may have to eat more often because, of course, the metabolism has been ramped up, the activity level has been ramped up. For somebody with diabetes, and I mean, maybe this is more Mrs. Robinson's forte since she's presenting on that topic, but somebody who has diabetes and they're on insulin, I've had heard of persons being advised by naturopaths or other health professionals to eat twice a day, and they have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and they're on insulin. That's suicide right there.
Yes.
Right? So it has to be individualized. But of course, each and every one of us need to give ourselves time to feel hungry. If the person has acid reflux, I would recommend that they're not eating and drinking at the same time. So they're going to eat their meal, and then maybe 1 to 2 hours after, they can have their beverage. Ensure it's a beverage packed full with nutrients. Sip slowly, eat smaller meals. Again, it's recommended to visit your clinician and to receive individualized advice.
In other words, Mrs. Graham-Charles, we need to cut out the sodas and those sweet, sugary juice and start going to our fruit juice and fruit punches and stuff.
That's right. Drink more natural sources. But another thing about us in the Caribbean, the natural juice, or local juice as we call it in Antigua, a lot of water, a lot of sugar, and just a tips of the juice itself. So that is not any natural juice there. That's the essence of natural juice. So what we need to do, what we recommend, going back to the old time, we have juicing, using a sieve and squeezing out the juice, using a juicer, eating the natural fruit. So it's recommended to eat your juices rather than drink them,
Yes.
and if we do that more, we'll find that we're consuming less added sugar, less refined sugars and carbs and sweet items, and we're eating more healthy.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Graham-Charles. This is the next question. What should the proportion be? This is for Mrs. Robinson. Actually, she presented on this. But if you have any input, you can always go ahead and share. What should the proportion be for the mixed food choice?
Me? As in relation to diabetes or a healthy individual?
Just you can put it both ways. You can do it for diabetics, and you can do it for healthy individuals.
All right. So what we normally do is let me start with diabetes. So we normally give them a certain percentage of macronutrients. Let's say they're diabetic and we give them 50% of their total calories should come from carbohydrates. We divide the total amount of grams for the day into meals: breakfast, snack, lunch, dinner. So we'll say, just an example, 3 servings of staples for breakfast, 3 servings of staples for lunch, 3 servings of staples for dinner. Bear in mind, the issue is not necessarily just knowing that you're supposed to get 3 servings of staple, but is to know what is 3 servings of staple if I'm going to eat rice versus ground provision. That's why a lot of persons, especially doctors, I know, they normally tell, avoid the rice, avoid this. It's not necessarily to avoid, because the same amount based on the serving size, you can get the same amount of carbohydrate. The difference is that the portion, we don't know how to portion our thing. So if I'm going to have rice, let's say for snack, not like rice for lunch, then 3 servings, that's 1.5 cup. If I'm going to have ground provision, and that is 3 serving, green banana, that's 3 green banana, 3 medium green banana. So that's 3 servings, having the same amount. For each individual, it's different because we require different amounts of calories throughout the day, and all of that, when calculated, it can result in different amounts based on the total calories. So a man might require 4 servings of staple for each main meal, while a female that's not doing much at work, she might just require 3 staples for each main meal and 2 servings of protein for each meal. So it varies. I can't tell you directly that every individual require this amount for each meal, but it varies based on the amount of, or the percentage of macronutrients that the professional is going to give them.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Robinson.
I answered your question?
Yes, you did. You did. Mrs. Graham-Charles, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Mrs. Robinson has said it very profoundly and ably, so I concur with her.
Okay, that is good. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for answering the questions of me and my colleagues. This is a great presentation, and thanks for your input. All right, I'll send you back over to Ms. Rooms.
Okay, thank you very much again. I do have my own questions, but Mr. Tamer, I'll let you go before me. I'm seeing that we are 8 minutes over the 1.5 hour period. I don't know if you want to continue, but persons are still coming in, so I think that's a good sign. And I still have questions. My questions are really to wrap up, though, just to tie together, right? But I am eager to hear what Mr. Heron has to ask. Do you still have your questions, or you had your hand up, or was it an error?
You're putting me under a lot of pressure here. Now you see what you're doing to my stress level. Now you're driving it up the roof. Right? That's not good. And it's just before lunchtime. But excellent presentation to the presenters, and congrats to you and your team, Ruth, for putting this webinar together. which is much needed and welcome and quite timely. So we're going into the summer, and so this is where persons are going to really need to start doing some exercise and paying attention to their diet, you know. But Mrs. So you spoke about the blood type, but is there a difference between the blood type and the blood group, and should there be a nutrition specific to the blood group if there's a difference? And then Ms. Robinson, this one's for you. We have our exercise group here at the library, Luco, and we have been exercising half an hour 2 times per week, but persons are not seeing the result, immediate result that they want to see, right? And so I'm wondering, is there a way to tie the nutrition? I know you said it is specific to individual. Is there a way to have the nutrition tied into the exercise routine that we're doing so persons can see their result faster? And also, is there a difference, or if I am slim, does that mean that I am healthy opposed to someone who is fat? Can someone be fat and healthy? Thanks.
Okay, so the blood type question, and are the others for me, or are they for Mrs. Robinson? Or you want both of us to answer? You're
both experts in the field, so I'll take it.
Okay, thank you for your kind compliment. I'm not sure if I'm an expert, but we study and we practice. That's what we do best. But in terms of the blood type and blood group, there is just some jargon, pretty much that. Of course, you know, in terms of the whole biochemistry of, you know, what we're talking about today, we could dig a little deeper. But in general, yes, the blood type and blood group are pretty much the same. In terms of the exercise, so let me speak as a sports nutrition practitioner as well. Now, you really have to ask the question, how much exercise is everybody doing in a day, or how much movement? So it's like having a bank account. You're saving, but you're not tracking. You're not checking your bank account. You don't know how much you have, how much you're spending. So you're not keeping tabs. So many times what happens, persons are exercising. Yes, they're exercising, but what they're taking in is more than what they're putting out. And so what I usually recommend for someone to be able to track their activity level, track their intake, is to use an activity tracker. So I keep this on my hand, and I know how many steps I've done in a day. And when I exercise, and I'm able to keep track of my exercise. Why I don't recommend a smartphone is because the activity tracker, what it does, it uses your heart rate to let you know whether exerting more energy than Tom, or whether you're trying to keep fit. What you need to do is to have a nice CrossFit. So a CrossFit fit of a mixture of CrossFit exercises, not just cardio, but you also need to do strengthening and toning exercises. The last thing about exercising or fitness routine is that you need to do interval exercises. So if you are doing the same thing every day, your muscle has memory, your mind is recalling all that you have done and what you're going to do, you're pretty much not boosting your metabolism there. So you need to go somewhere, and cycling is a great way of doing it, or exercises where you have to deal with undulations such as hills, cycling, or CrossFit. CrossFit is like you're doing 4 exercises within a half an hour or 1 hour, and at each station you're doing 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then you just get maybe about 10 seconds or 30 seconds break in between exercise as you walk from one station to the next, and you do that repeatedly over an hour. What is happening there is that you're actually fooling your mind into thinking it's doing all of these things, and so it's not sticking to one specific exercise for a period of time. And that's what we call interval exercises. So that's really, really important.
All right. So you were asking earlier that a lot of them exercising and they are not losing weight. But what we should remember also is that 80% of weight loss is your diet. So it could be a case where they are exercising, they are putting in the work, but guess what? They're eating the same. They're still eating a lot of things that are high in saturated fat or high in different types of fat, high in sugar, and they are not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of lean meats. So because they're taking in so much and compare that to what they're burning is not enough. So you realize that they're exercising a lot, but not losing 1 pound. The energy input is more than the energy output. So you have to ensure that the energy output is more. They're putting out more energy than what they're putting in. If they are eating, let's say 3,000 calories a day, and they're exercising for maybe just 30 minutes for, what I say, 2 days for the week, then you're not going to see much results like that. It's not just exercise. Exercise and nutrition in terms of results, it goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. Especially nutrition, where weight loss is concerned, 80% is what you put in, you'll see the results. And I think the last question you asked was that if you are slim, if you're slim built, if you are healthy versus somebody that is on a more plump side, the answer is no. Having a small or a slim physique does not equate to you being healthy. It could be a case, just giving a different example, there's a type of fat that what we call visceral fat. That's not a fat that is visible to the naked eye. You cannot see that type of fat. That is the fat that is around your vital organs inside. It could be a case where they are slim, but the visceral fat is high. And having a high visceral fat puts you at risk to getting heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, etc. A lot of different chronic diseases. That is what a high visceral fat does. And it could be a case where they are slim built, but on their bones is a lot of fat and not muscle. So when they hold their hands out like this and you draw the skin down, there's no muscle. There's a lot of fat. So they're fatty even though they're slim, if you understand what I'm saying. So being slim doesn't equate to being healthy. And you realize that a fat person or a person that has weight, they're running and they're fit. They can go a mile and they don't stop, versus somebody that is slim as well. They're slim and they're running and they can't even go to the stairs. They're not fit. So being slim or being fat doesn't equate healthy. So don't look at anybody that is slim and say, no man, them can't eat anything at all because they're slim and the body just going to burn it and they're so healthy, they're going to live long, them have all this. No, you can just see them get a heart attack and the next day. I wonder how a slim person like that get a heart attack. Visceral fat is high, their diet is very high in saturated fat.
All right,
so
thank you.
I answer your question.
Yes, it has certainly shed some light into my way of thinking.
Okay.
But finally, for me, I know we're in the Caribbean and you have placed strong emphasis on that. And we have fruits that are seasonal, right? So I'm diabetic. When it's mango season, can I just pick mango off the tree and start eating it and I should be fine? And as soon as it's cherry season, then I have cherries and I'm eating fruit, so I should be healthy, I should be fine. And Mrs. Graham, I know that you have a little sporting, well, not a little, you are a sport expert as well with the nutrition. So is there a recommended amount of time that we should consume our last meal before partaking in aerobics?
Okay, so the first question about fruits and mango time. As the old folk song, the lines go, me no drink coffee, tea, mango time. Care how nice it may be, mango time. But I'm telling you, when mango time is in, I don't eat cake. I love cake, but I don't eat cake. because mango satisfies that sweet tooth, right?
Yes.
But the problem with mango time, especially because, you know, it has a higher glycemic index than some of the other local fruits. And then our culture of eating, we can eat one mango, not one kidney mango, a whole dozen, a whole bucket, and persons with diabetes do that. And a matter of fact, from a behavioral point of view, persons stay away from the doctor's office until mango season is over. They literally do that because they love the mango. They can't eat one. They'll tell you they can't eat one. They have to eat an entire bucket. They'll sit down in front of that bucket and eat the entire bucket of mango, but they don't want to deal with the reality of going to the doctor and hearing that their blood sugar is high in the sky. And it's not to condemn anybody in the group or anybody who would hear this recording after, but the reality is that even if persons consume fruits and vegetables, they can still overconsume, because we're not just talking about calories. We are talking about toxicity. We can overconsume nutrients, vitamins A, vitamins E, K, those fat soluble vitamins. I'm telling you, if we overconsume on those can accumulate in the body in toxic numbers or levels that persons can actually die. So it's important that we understand. Mrs. Robinson spoke about the multi-mix principle, and I spoke about in general eating from the various food groups. Mrs. Robinson alluded to that as well. Eating from the rainbow, so you're eating different colors. The different colors represent different types of nutrients, tend to be in certain colors, right? Maybe not the same in every single fruit or vegetable of the color, but it gives you an ability to mix up your nutrient intake, as well as phytonutrients that help with heart disease, cancers, those sort of things. So it's important that persons visit a dietitian, nutritionist, and to be able for that dietitian, nutritionist to help them to know how much food they need to eat in a day according to their activity level and according to where they are in the life cycle. So a father who is working and he's making the money coming home, and because, you know, we come from that culture where the father must get the most chicken on the plate or the biggest portion of food, and he has a 15-year-old son who is actually burning more energy than him, has more requirements, physiological, nutritional requirements than the father, but he's expected to eat less than the father. So where you are in the life cycle depends on that. And then, your activity level, because if somebody is engaged in athletics, versus somebody who is just doing 30 minutes of exercise every day, their nutritional requirement will differ. So they need to visit their dietitian, nutritionist to put into perspective, or even if it means preparing a meal plan, to know how much food they should consume in a day. So that was the first question. And the second one was, or have I answered all the questions?
If there are a specific time or a baseline in order for us to eat before going into aerobics.
Okay, so it depends on the person, whether they're an athlete or if they're just doing exercise, like, you're doing your employee wellness exercise at the library. Also, it depends to what time the exercise is. So, for example, if you're exercising at 4 or 5 o'clock and you eat lunch at 12, then, you would need to have something before you go. But if it's just 30 minutes, depending on what you eat. So an hour is a good time, 2 hours. 2 hours to an hour before the activity. If the person has, say, for example, let me use acid reflux for argument's sake, because then activity, acidity, there's that activity there. And if they're doing like crunches today and they ate like an hour before the activity, maybe they'll experience some reflux. So it all depends on the individual, where they are in the life cycle, what their exercise is going to be about, whether they're going to race or they're going to go on a long distance event or they're just going to do something real quick after work, and where they are in the life cycle. So are they pregnant? Are they children? Are they in the elderly? You know, is it a young growing teenager? Where are they in the life cycle? So it all depends.
I want to thank you both so much. I'm going to hand over to Miss Yolanda Lindsay to do the vote of thanks. We have 4 minutes before closing time. That's so, this was a wealth of knowledge, you know, and Dad said that we were going to unveil, we were going to turn our cameras on for those who are wearing the Luca shirts. I'm wearing mine, right? Because we want to support each other and show how established we are and how serious we are about our nutrition and our exercise, because it goes hand in hand, right?
Yes.
Go ahead now, Miss Yolanda Lindsay. Miss Lindsay.
Sorry, one moment. Yes, good afternoon. So this has been a really good webinar today. I think we can all say that. And for that, I would like to thank Mrs. Dorothy Graham-Charles, who presented us, who gave us a really interesting talk on the blood type diet and how your blood type can impact your diet and nutrition. I'm sure many of us didn't know that matching the blood type to the types of food can enhance the impact on your diet and exercise. And we'd also like to thank our surprise guest, Mrs. Kayon Brooks-Robinson, who spoke to us about how important nutrition is particularly for the individual and when dealing with such issues as diabetes, kidney disease, and I'm sure it applies to many other health issues that, you know, pop up from time to time, as well as the importance of exercise and cooking methods. And I never really thought of that, I'll be honest with you. But cooking methods to maintain a healthy balance with nutrition and exercise and all of that. For somebody who is struggling with her weight, this is a very important webinar for me. And so I'd like to thank you both again. I'd also like to thank Ms. Ruth Rooms, who was the primary organizer for the webinar, but also her committee members, Nicole Johnston and Bernadette Worrell Johnston, as well as the members of our cardio team who just come out every Wednesday and Friday faithfully to do the exercise. You know, there's a lot of talking and, you know, encouraging each other with this. So I'd like to thank those persons as well. And I'd like to wish everybody a really, really good day. And thanks again for attending our webinar. Thank you for the support.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you, our presenters. I have your contact, so if anyone needs to you know, some expert advice, I'll ask again if they are okay with you coming in person or just contacting, right? But we are grateful that you were able to share your expert advice, and we're going to put it in practice. Be sure of that. Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
There was a last question, but I'll pass it to you off the air. It's about fatty liver. Somebody had asked. So you see, maybe we need to have another in the series, right? Part 2. Okay, have a good rest of the day, everyone. Thank you for your support. Thank you, our chair, Mr. Tamar Heron. Thank you, Miss Asha Gay, special recognition from Janet Pinad, right, who provided these presenters for us. Have a great day and God bless you all.
All right.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye.